Welcome. I have to do a little cooking. But while I'm doing it, just to save some time between doing this and doing that, motherfucker, why don't I just talk about that thing that I've been thinking about? How's that sound? Oh, does that sound pretty fun? Or no? Does it sound kind of cool? Again, or no? We gotta bring her up, don't we? Fucking scissors are small. Now, what I was thinking about, I'm reading right now Bede. He's called the Venerable Bede. God damn you, man. Why venerable? I don't know, Father. Anyway, he's Venerable Bede, and he's a Christian bishop, monk. I don't fucking know. He's a guy. He's a Christian guy, and so, being that he's a Christian guy, he wanted to write about the histories of England. And he wanted to write about the histories of England. What do you think he's mostly going to talk about? How England was turned into a Christian nation. So it's called the ecclesiastical history of England. And so that's fun and dandy, is it not? Well, okay, when I first got the book, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what the fuck the word ecclesiastical meant. I had no idea. My whole idea was I wanted to get to the source of history. Man, meat smells odd. Whatever. Now, that was the whole point of it. So that's what I thought. Let's do that. And I've been reading it, and I'm about halfway through it. And here's what I'm noticing. Here's the fucking stuff that I'm noticing. Worcestershire. The Christianization, and this again is just England. I don't really know anything about the other nations and stuff. But this was between, I don't remember if it started, basically it started when Julius Caesar invaded, and it goes up till, oh my god, I don't remember if it was the 400s AD or the 700s. I can't quite remember, but before the year 1000. Okay, and he's talking about the Christianization. There's some segments where he gets really historical and stuff, but he mostly focuses on Christian stuff. And I'll get to the point in a minute. But for instance, how much he focuses on the Christian stuff, there were chapters devoted to, and then this King Oswald, who was a venerable man, who died a Christian, fucking murdered by pagans. And his body was so preserved by the Lord that those who touched it, all these miracles happened. And then it goes into all the fucking miracles of, you know, this horse was dying, foaming at the mouth. And apparently it lay on the patch where he died. And all of a sudden the horse was healed. And there was a girl with palsy, and they fucking brought a piece of the earth in which he was either killed on or buried in. I don't remember. I think killed on. And it cured her palsy. Then there was this person who was dying, and he didn't want to die. He felt he was too young, and so he said, I'm being killed by the Lord for my, you know, I was a man of vice, even though I was a clergyman or whatever. And essentially, he didn't want to die yet. And so the one guy said, there's a chip of wood, oak wood, that was used when they impaled King Oswald, the pagans did. And I have a piece of it. And he put it in a cup, poured water in, drank the water, somehow he lived longer. Okay? And that's what it was devoted to. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's hard to read that shit. Now, not because I don't believe, but I just, the ailments that they describe, it's insanity, right? But meanwhile, the fucking priest who wrote this, Bede, he went blind, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't even know. There's just a whole ass thing about it. And so, drawing closer to my point, the interesting thing that I found, that I'm starting to, I'm seeing a new way, is the Christianization of pagan nations. Okay, so what does that mean, motherfucker? Excuse me, I mean my friends. There are some interesting things that I've been noticing when it comes to, I don't know how to word this, but looking deeper into something than it previously thought. I find that we as people, we're like, oh yeah, I get it, of course, I understand that, but I don't know if we do. And because of that, we don't truly look at the source of it. And remember that video I said about selling God? Well, man, oh man, is it crazy when you start to think of it in that way. England was this giant pagan nation, and they don't really talk about anything. What was pagan about it? They just said they're idolaters, and they worship idols, and that's bad, and they need to stop doing that. And we need to fix that shit over there. So popes were really hard on the idea of getting these bishops over there to cure this paganism. Now, it's so interesting to think about that in terms of, I don't know, you gotta wrap your mind around, actually you gotta take your mind away from your own thinking. And because of that, people can't do it. It's like I found that there's this faith, and there's this man way over here that has no idea about this faith. And he will be punished if he does not turn away from what he's been doing for thousands of years. That's, to me, fucking odd. And it makes me think that there's some sort of nefarious thing behind it all. Now, I'm not saying that the Catholic religion and everyone a part of it is in a conspiracy against, I don't know, I'm not claiming that. I just think there's something more to it. Something more that I don't understand. And that's what I'm seeking. So, what I'm studying, outside of the philosophy thing, which I'll do another one soon, is Christianization of the pagan world. So because I'm doing that, I'm trying to find sources of what I'm learning would be the umbrella that is Indo-European paganism. I don't know if that's the terminology for it, but that's kind of where I'm at so far, where I'm searching through and I'm like, okay, so this is the source. Because you have like Germanic paganism, Celtic, Anglo-Saxon, which is kind of Germanic, and then you have that Norse stuff. It's all kind of similar. There's just certain differences. Like instead of Odin, I think it was Woden, to which I believe it was the Anglo-Saxons talked about, and then Germanic people call them something a little bit different, but with the W as well. So it's like, okay, we have this umbrella thing. My thinking is, how similar is it to Celtic paganism? You know, when you come to the Irish paganism, which is the 𝒂𝒓𝒕 𝑻𝒘𝒐 kind of shit like that. You know, they all went to Ireland and blah blah blah. We'll get into that eventually. I'm trying to find a source to all this because I don't know the true reasoning behind Catholicism. Catholicism so far, on the outside, looking in, I look at its humble beginnings, and I'm gauging it from that point to about the 400s. It's a consolidation of power under an umbrella, right? Because eventually from that point we're going to start seeing the Crusades and all that shit. And it's amazing to me that we decided a faith and said if all these nations fall under it, there are benefits to it. You are part of this Christendom. And I really am so, like, I think of Europe in those days, like, what could Europe have been if Christianity wasn't a thing? What would have happened? You know, how different would it have been? What would have happened to Rome? Would Rome have had distant history? Or would it have been the same? Who knows? Well, what about the people of the, the Celtic peoples? What about the peoples that are, like all the Germanic peoples, and we're talking before the Visigoths and all that shit, and the Ostrogoths, what would have happened? That's the shit I'm trying to find out. I'm studying, so I've been collecting so many books, and I'm trying to search for this problem, see what I can kind of come up with. And I gotta be honest, it's a little tough, because, when it comes to Germanic, Indo-European, branch, umbrella. When it comes to what their religion was, according to them, it's so hard to find it. There are certain things here and there, like, oh, you know, there's prayers and there's, I wouldn't call it documents exactly, but little stories and stuff and mythologies that were all in the Middle Ages. So it's like they were forced into Christianity, and then the mid to late Middle Ages, they're like, well, fuck, man, like, what about it? We got to preserve it. You see that amongst the Welsh and apparently with the Irish and stuff, and I don't know anymore, else I'll give examples. But as I was sitting there thinking, I just imagined these bishops that were indoctrinated and told about this idea, this mental idea of like, what is this consciousness? How do we get people to believe it? How do you instantly dismiss someone like, oh, like fucking pagan, goddamn idolater? Like, what are you talking about? Like, how am I doing idolatry? Like, I'm worshiping my God. Well, that's not a real God, according to me. And I'm thinking of these bishops and all that stuff traveling, and they would send them to these different fucking countries, cities, kingdoms, whatever, to convert the fucking people. And there was giant sections, for instance, in that Ecclesiastical History by Bede, where it's talking about, golly, what was that fucker's name? I mentioned it in that one video, Selling God, where, you know, he went over to this kingdom, he's just trying so hard to convert these fucking people, and then he was telling the Pope, like, hey man, like, this king here is not, like, listening, he's being a pagan still, he's an idolater, or however you fucking say that. I can say idolater, maybe it's idolatrous, I don't know. But he's being this wicked way, and we have to do this and that, and then the fucking Pope starts sending letters to this king to say, hey man, like, you should definitely not do what you're doing, and stop doing that. And here's why. And you can go to the kingdom of heaven, which is greater than the kingdom of man. And, you know, I get the idea of it. I do. It makes sense. What does not make sense to me is how we know. That's what's like driving me fucking crazy. It's like, how do I fucking know? Because the reason I wanted to study the Proto-European shit is to get an understanding of how similar are the stories of the gods, the old gods, whether it's the Indo-European, whether it's the Greek, the Roman, name it, I don't know, anyone else that's got a smattering of their own gods, of their own kind of persuasion. What similarities can be drawn from these gods? I don't know. And so I'm just kind of like studying it and looking into it and just trying to get answers. Trying to find reasons to, you know, what may be going on in this, and what's the threat with non-Christianity? You know, do the Jewish people have a connection to Christianity more than we'll ever understand? No clue, man. It's so hard to fathom all this shit. I want to be able to say that I know, but I don't. And that's kind of why I'm looking more into all of this shit. And I want to explore it in a way, but not take away necessarily from the idea of what the channel's about, but it is a part of the journey along the way. Is it not? Now, I don't know though, because I'm doing this with my own volition. Let's get this over here. Bam! Start cooking that. But, yeah, so I just kind of wanted to talk about searching through this shit and finding out what exactly it is. Because, man, I don't know. Man, oh man. I don't know, man. Just like I don't know if I should use all the sauce. It's gonna be a chili. Why not use all the sauce? That the beans are in. They're in some sort of fucking water. Well, I guess we'll use it. Are you supposed to? I don't know. Oh wait, why not? It's chili. It's chili. baby back rib. So yeah, I don't know, just something I'm thinking about, and I wanted to talk about a little bit, just what I'm looking at here, and where I'm going to be going. I definitely will be getting into it more, obviously. I just kind of thought it'd be good to introduce this. Now, gotta cut an onion. This is gonna fucking suck. I hate cutting onions. We have some peps and stuff. Garlic we'll put in. And we'll put in some pep. And we'll put in some crushed red pep. And we'll put in some... We had some chili powder that we don't anymore. Bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada bing, bada boom, bada bing. Yeah, I don't know. Just kind of thinking about these things, man. And I wanted to talk to you about it. Can I talk to you? Wait a minute, I talk to you. Get some of that garlic in there. Or as some call it, garlic. Garlic. Who's Garlic? That's your step cousin that I was fucking the other day. Or no, I don't know. Okay, so let me cut an onion. Throw that bastard, excuse me, that motherfucker, oops, I mean that thing in there. Sorry, I'm trying to be better. Be better at this, but it's much more fun. Because I'll fucking cut it! You don't need to get so intense. Ooh, I don't like that. Now, there are sections within that book that really bring the point home, and that's what I wanted to kind of mention in brief. Is, I don't know, for some reason, you know, I kind of was passively thinking all this. Like, man, it's so crazy. It's like, you create a fucking group of people that are pushing some sort of idea, some sort of fucking consciousness idea. How crazy is that? These onions might be bad. Yeah, they are. Fucking whore. I don't think I have any more onions. Well, there's a couple here. Refrigerated. I'll at least use it. But yeah, and they were like, the thing that was tripping me was like, these these bishops were just traveling in a coach together, discussing things, and I just thought it was, I don't know why that image really just made me think like, wow, this is a little fucked up. But it did, it invoked something in me that just said like, how odd is it to force ideas on people? You know what I mean? Like, to sit here and say, like, okay, like, we're coming over from this foreign land, and you're like, oh, hi, foreigner. How are you, weirdo, that I don't know who you are? And they're like, good, good, good. So we want you to believe in this thing. And you're like, whoa, what the fuck is that? They're like, it's called religion. We're like, yeah, we got that. We got the gods and all that. We got Woden. It's great. You're like, yeah, no, all yours are fake. These ones are real. And you're like, well, how are they fit? How are my gods different than yours? I think one more can of beans would be awesome. And he's like, because I said so, because there's only one God. And they're like, how can you know that? And then they say, because he said there only is. To which I'm sure someone's like, don't they all say that? Doesn't anyone say that they're the only one, they're the best one? What kind of person's like, yeah, I don't know if there are others, but there are, I don't know. But, I'm the best one. You know, it's kind of a human element. Now, I'm not claiming there isn't one God. I don't know. I want to believe that. My whole life, I was never an atheist, but I never knew the truth. And that's where faith comes in. I know this. I get it. It fundamentally makes sense to me. What does not make sense is saying that there's only one of them. So again, when I think of like my book, the elements that I explore are that there's just one, and below them are other gods. And these other gods are people that are that we would relate to, like Zeus and like Hera and like fucking Apollo and the, what is it, the Celtic, I don't know how to say it precisely, but 𝒂𝒓𝒕 I think it's called. Those people, Odin and all them motherfuckers. Like, okay, there's a weird pantheon idea. And like, are these pantheon of gods like gods to us, but a lesser people underneath one major god? They don't really seem to have a connection to, because they all seem to say like, oh, Zeus, oh, Odin, oh, whoever the Celtic, is it Dagda? I don't remember. This one person in that pantheon, they're like, this is the big one. I don't know. I really don't know. And those are what I'm coming to is I believe there's a sort of resurgence of paganism again. Now, originally it was happening in the Middle Ages, right? At least try to understand their paganism. This is like right now happening because people are feeling like how I am. Like, this, nothing makes sense, you know? Like, I gotta get to the source of it. You've been forced to think a certain way for so fucking long that when you get a new idea, you're like, I don't know. And I can totally understand feeling that way. It makes so much sense to me to question this. Does that mean that you are idolatrous? Probably to certain doctrines and stuff like that. But the more you really start looking into the major faiths, whether that's Judaism or Christianity or Islam, you start to see these like weird human parts that just turn you off to the idea like, well, maybe they're wrong. Like, certain aspects of Christians believe in angels and hell and all that, and other ones don't. And those concepts were made up in the Middle Ages. Like, you look at the Old Testament, there's like no proof that there ever was a arch fucking, what's it called? The like the Satan. Because according to the Jews, the Satan was just like this, like, it's a very Jewish thing. He's like, he's the one that takes the side of like to prove your guilt and all that stuff. I forgot what that position's called. The cross examiner or some shit. And so it's like, and that's only a Christian thing, and you can find it in Paradise Lost, and all of a sudden it becomes part of Christian doctrine, in angels and all that stuff. That just to me is odd. That like we're just gonna pretend like that wasn't no Paradise Lost. I don't know what you're talking about. It was in the Bible. It's like, no, it's not. Like, that's the weird part, and then you just get these weird human elements of it. And in Judaism in itself, and talking about the oral Torah and the written one. That right there is just fucking ridiculous. You know, like, well, the second temple was destroyed. We're waiting for the third one for the Messiah, and blah blah blah. And it's like, you know, it's been how many thousands of years, man? Like, do you really think that you're right about everything? You think maybe you missed the boat on that Jesus thing? Seems to be kind of something that might be something to think about, at least. It just, all these religions, man, like, just, they're starting to show their age. Again, I'm not claiming that there isn't a God, because I truly believe there is. I just don't know if, it's hard to trust all these man-made things. Man tells you to pray. Man tells you to go here to worship. Man tells you this is God and this isn't God. Man tells you that these people are incorrect, and it's all man shit. You know, well, God said this and that. Like, he said it to you? Or was it written down when you read it? I don't know this. And that's where the finding of faith is, well, it is very difficult, but it can be misleading. And it's not, I don't think it's a good thing to think like, oh, faith is just the idea of there's a whole board of them and you just pick yours. That seems bullshit. That seems pretty fucking stupid. Like, that's not how that should work. What the fuck is this about? So that confuses me. So what I'm having to do is think of it in my own life. Like, what is faith in my life? What is God in my life? God is the guy or the person or whatever, the being, telling me to do this book and do these fucking videos. That's what it is to me. I don't feel like I want to do this shit, but something's telling me to do it, and I'm like, well, god damn it. Should I go ramble on about this now? And apparently so. That's how I feel about it. It's like, that's who he is to me. I'm doing all these goddamn things because I feel like I'm supposed to. I'm being told to. I'm being guided here. Every time I don't want to do it, I'm fucking forced into doing it. And I do not have a reason. I don't have like, yeah, because I was sat down and I was told everything. Like, no, I don't know. I'm just doing this because I feel like I have to. Just like everyone else is doing something, you know, in your life that you're like, I don't know what it is, but I gotta do it. No clue. You can equate it to anything. But I think it's kind of ignorant to say that it lacks religious quality or a fundamental spiritual quality because it's within self. You know, like when a Messianic Jew is trying to say you shouldn't be comfortable in who you are because you're a sinful person and you do atone, and Jesus died for all your sins, and if you have to accept that fact, and even if you kind of do but not in the way that they want you to, you're wrong. Like, I'm not ignorant to the idea that I'm full of sin, and I do it all the time. I do it every single day, and I don't feel great about it, right? What does, on a philosophical level, what does the acceptance of Christ have to do with that? Does it just wash me clean? Why does he need to be the conduit of what's within me? Is he the tool of that nature? Why is that different than Judaism? Why don't Jews see it that way? God didn't talk about it until Christ was sent in, so it's like, did he just say like, oh, maybe they don't get it, let's talk about it in this way because they're just not getting it down there? Is there some sort of lag period where when God does things, all of a sudden people are like, god damn it, like I thought they should have got it. I made 10 commandments. I thought it would be fucking simple. They're already fucking it up. Let me send myself down embodied in this person, and then I will die for them, and then maybe that'll fix the fucking problem. And then it didn't, and like, god damn it, let's go to a third time, let's do the Muslim route. I don't know. Are those different gods? Because each one of those people, a Jew, a Christian, of any denomination, and a Muslim, they're not going to be like, oh, their God's more God than our God. They're going to be like, no, we have the only God. There is only one. Like, isn't it not confusing as fuck? And then you have like thousands of years before that, multitudes of paganism. Multitudes. From like with the Persians, you know, or like the Zoroastrians, which interestingly the Jews were influenced by, but no one wants to mention that. That's where the whole heaven and hell thing happened, they think. And you have all the fucking Celtic, Proto-Celtic, and then the Germanic, you know, the Indo-European. You have all the African deities. You have all the ones in the Aboriginal places of the Americas and South Americas, and in Australia. I forgot the name of the people there. All those ones were just fantasies in their heads, or were they part of the same idea, just interpreted in their own way? Like, that's, how do you discern that? We're all, this is my belief, I'll claim this. I think every single religion, from Africa, thousands of years ago, to fucking Australia, to Germany, to all of them, all the pagan religions, Aboriginal peoples and stuff, I think every single one of them, including Christianity, is all someone's understanding of all the same truth in their own culture. I think we are talking all about the same gods. I think there are groups of them. And then they're no different from one another, only in our minds. Because, like, again, you go to those things we were talking about, the philosophy, the understanding of within what you can understand, what resonates from yourself. How can that be a truth if it's subjective in that way? if my subjectivity believes in this idea, how could that differ from this one over here? So faith kind of claims there's an all-knowing oneness and there's an all-knowing like God, because that comes out of our imperfection. Philosophy is trying to understand the idea of how all these things can be right in their own ways. These phenomena and all these different belief systems and all these different things that we find with our senses. Somehow they're all different, but in some ways that difference has got to be cultural to the same truth. I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. This is the kind of thing that I'm thinking it could be. Am I right about it? Probably not. Probably not even close. But it's hard to just ignore all the sacrifices, all the belief systems that ever existed. That's what was so fascinating about Joseph Campbell. He was very instrumental in in gathering all these different things together from these different religions and saying that there's a fundamental truth that they're all talking about. There's something that they all claim within each other. I don't know, but that's what I found interesting about him, is what he's mentioning here is a fundamental truth that we all have within ourselves. Just read his work. You know, I think he's overlooked when it comes, like, we all talk about Carl Jung, we all talk about Freud, we all talk about fucking, I don't know, any other fuckers that go about saying shit like Alan Watts or whatever, but we never really talk about Joseph Campbell, and I think he was onto something when it comes to all this shit. I truly believe that there is something to it all. And like, again, for me, that's where I'm exploring in the book. And that's why I study it. So like right now I'm studying the Christianization, again from the side of the victor, the side of the Christians, of the pagan England, Wales and Scotland and Ireland, who would become those places, the Britons and all that. That's what I'm studying. I'm like, well, let's hear their perspective and let's hear what they had to endure to kind of change people into this way. And I would love to hear more of a thought of why they feel like they should do it. Because to me it comes across in the works and the reading and the writing so phony. I'm not saying it is, but just the way that they're going about it, the way they talk about, you know, their religion, the way they paint it to someone who doesn't believe in it, it just comes across as like, you know, like a business. Okay, here's the things you should mention. We have a portfolio for you. Here's all the things to talk about to kind of convince them to buy our product. Here's the different things. And you can study how to do this so you can change people's minds. Like, that to me is selling product. It's no different. Now, is that have to do with just the way our minds work and how we convince people? Is that why we see it in the business world? Or is selling of God, is it actually a product? You know, my mind tells me the selling of God, the selling of religion, no matter which one it is, but mostly it's the big three. You sell it through those three, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, means connecting of a consciousness. When you put all these people in, this is the fucking, like, the Masonic belief, right? This is the head, this is the philosophical head that will be the control. Here's the power of the people. Put that on them, now we can guide them into what we need them to be. I mean, for instance, you could just look at the Middle Ages. Look at the whole infidel shit. Look at the whole, like, okay, like, crusade, go down here, and I don't remember all, there's like a few crusades and they're all different purposes. But if I understand it correctly, they'll have the same idea as, like, you'll be washed of sin. Right? Like, to me, that's crazy. It's like forming a fucking zombie army. I'm just like, you believe these things and you do what we tell you when we say to do it. I don't know, man. That's the kind of thing I'm just thinking about. Like, it's kind of innate to look for the sinister in it. That's just kind of where my mind instantly goes. Like, oh, you want me to do this? You're trying to manipulate. Why? So, I mean, I can't help to go there. But that's the first thing I think about, is like, are they sincere? Was this religion created by a class of people to manipulate a group of people? I don't fucking know. I don't know if I'll ever know that answer. It feels right though. It feels like it. It feels like it's bastardizing what a God is. By forming like, no, this is. Because when you believe in a God in this way, it enacts these different abilities in your head. And because of that, you can easily be molded into what we need. I don't know though. It might sound like a madman saying that, but again, I can't help but feel that way. That this might be what's happening. I don't know. I mean, I'm okay with someone saying that I'm wrong about that. I'm fine with that. There's something more to this than we will ever know. But I won't know. Will we ever know? I don't know. All I do know is this smells really fucking good. Nobody has chili in the summer. I do. I have chili all the time. Got that Worcestershire in there. Mmm. But yeah, I wanted to just kind of talk about that while I was doing this. I'll bring that heat down. Let it just fucking go for a while. But yeah, just something I wanted to mention. I will do a second video of the philosophy reading. When I looked at it, I don't know if I made it correct. Was it 18th or 19th century? I don't remember. I thought it was 19th. I'll have to double check that. I think I meant 19th and I wrote 18th. I'll have to fix that. But that's all. Just something to talk about. Southern God Part 2.